One of my favorite food is Italian food. I love Italian food. I love the pastas. I love the sauces. I love the seasonings. It's so yummy. And probably one of the most popular types of Italian cuisine here in America is spaghetti. I mean, who doesn't love a pile of spaghetti, right? Right. But, as anybody knows, spaghetti is extremely high in carbs. I mean, 2 ounces of spaghetti noodles just by themselves with no sauce or anything on it is 41 grams of carbs. And then you pile on those sugary sauces and have some garlic bread on the side. Oh my gosh, before you know it, your carb count is through the roof. But don't worry, just because you're on a low carb diet doesn't mean you can't enjoy the tasty sensation of spaghetti. Today's recipe is for low carb, keto friendly, gluten free spaghetti with the sauce, with the meatballs, and stick around to the end of the video and I'm going to show you a quick garlic butter recipe that will transform any type of bread instantly into garlic bread in under 1 minute. So awesome! And if you want printable versions of these, then check out my website at janetsdeliciouslowcarbkitchen.com. You can find printable versions of these recipes and other goodies there for you. And if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to hit the little notification bell, then you can be notified every time I put out a new video. And when you do that, let's get cooking.
Preheat 1 tablespoon of oil of your choice in a large skillet over medium heat. I'm using avocado oil. You can use any type of oil you want. Just keep in mind that certain oils have stronger flavors than others. Avocado oil and olive oil tend to have a little bit stronger flavor than coconut oil or canola oil or things like that. So it all depends on what you want your meatball to taste like. First, we're going to make the meatballs. In a large mixing bowl, combine 1 pound of ground meat of your choice. I'm using ground turkey, but you can use any ground meat you want, ground beef or ground sausage, whatever works for you. Add about a ½ teaspoon of seasoned salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of seasoned pepper. I use the seasoned salt and seasoned pepper, not just the regular salt and pepper. You want to get as much flavor as you can. A ½ teaspoon of garlic powder, a ½ teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of dried oregano, 1 large egg. Mix these all together until they're fully combined. Make sure you really get in there with your wooden spoon and mix them completely. You want to make sure that egg is all combined all throughout the meat. The egg is really what's going to help hold your meatballs together, so really make sure you get that mixed in good. Add 1/3 cup of low-carb breadcrumbs or almond meal. I usually save the heels off of the low-carb bread that I make and I dry them out. I blend them up in my food processor really fine and keep them in a mason jar in my freezer, so I always have low-carb breadcrumbs on hand. But if you don't have them on hand, you can always use almond meal in place of the breadcrumbs. Mix these all together until they're fully combined. Again, make sure you really get in there and distribute those seasonings all the way through your meatballs. You want to make sure every meatball has flavor. Also, the seasoned salt and pepper and the other seasonings, they can always be adjusted or changed according to what your taste is. So after you've mixed these all together really well, scoop the meatball mixture out with a cookie scoop or 1 tablespoon at a time and place it into the preheated skillet. Make sure you get as close to a ball shape as you can when you scoop them out. They don't have to be perfect, but you want them in a circle shape. You don't just want a flat piece of meat on there, otherwise it wouldn't be a meatball. So make sure you get it in a circle shape when you drop it into the pan. Brown the meatballs for 2 minutes on one side. Then stir and brown them for about 2 minutes on the other side. Make sure all the outside has just been lightly browned. Don't worry about if it's not cooked all the way through. It will continue to cook once we put it in our sauce. So it just needs to be brown all the way around because you don't want the grease to drip into your sauce. You don't want your sauce to taste greasy. So make sure you brown those meatballs really good. While the meatballs are browning, we're going to make a quick sauce. In a blender or a food processor, add 3 to 4 medium tomatoes that have been chopped. They don't have to be chopped really small. You just want them chopped enough to be able to fit in the processor good. If you don't have tomatoes on hand, you can always use canned diced tomatoes. Just make sure you drain most of the liquid out of the cans. You don't want your sauce to be watery. Once you've got your chopped tomatoes in your processor, add 8 ounces of tomato paste, seasoned salt and seasoned pepper to your taste. I usually use about a half teaspoon of seasoned salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of seasoned pepper. A half teaspoon dry oregano, a 1/4 teaspoon dry basil, a half teaspoon of brown swerve or a sweetener of your choice. This is optional. It doesn't give your sauce a massive sweet flavor, so you don't have to worry about it tasting like candy sauce if you add a sweetener. It just basically brings out all the flavors and combines them really well together. So I always add a little bit of sweetener to it, but it's up to you whether you want to add that or not. A half teaspoon of garlic powder, a half teaspoon of onion powder. Once you've added all the ingredients to the processor, pulse it for about 30 seconds or until it's the desired texture that you want. If you want it more lumpy, then pulse it less. If you want more of a smooth sauce, then pulse it longer or put it in a high-powered blender and pulverize it till it's completely smooth. It's up to you what the texture that you want. I like mine mostly smooth. I don't mind a little bit of lumps in them, but mostly smooth. So I pulse it for about 30 seconds. Once the sauce is done, check on your meatballs and make sure they're all nice and brown. They should be, because like I said, it only takes about 2 minutes on each side. So they should be all nice and brown. Remove the meatballs from your skillet and drain off any fat that might be in the skillet. Also, if there's any brown flecks or anything floating around in the skillet from the meatballs, make sure you get those out too. It's not a big deal if they get in your sauce, but personally I don't like little black things floating around in my sauce, but it's up to you whether that bothers you or not. So just drain off all the fat and any little black flecks that might be in there. Once you've drained off all the fat from your pan, then take your sauce mixture and pour it into the skillet. Stir it around a bit to make sure all the flavors are all nicely combined. Then add your meatballs. Once you add your meatballs in, if it looks like you don't have as much sauce as you'd actually want, then you can go ahead and add about 8 ounces of tomato sauce. It all depends on how many meatballs you're adding there. You know, if you're adding all the meatballs from this recipe, then you might want to add the 8 ounces of the tomato sauce just to give it more of a saucy mixture. Otherwise, just add as many meatballs as you want. You can always freeze the others and use them later if you don't want to use the whole batch. I personally use the whole batch. So add the meatballs, and if you want to add the extra tomato sauce, go ahead. Bring the sauce to a low boil over medium heat. Reduce the heat to low. Cover and simmer for about 15 minutes to combine all the seasonings, and then make sure your meatballs are done all the way through. While that's simmering, you can prepare whatever noodles you might be using, whether it be veggie noodles. We usually spiralize up some zucchini and use zoodles for it. You can use that, or you can use any low-carb pasta you want. If you want a good recipe for that, you can always check out my video on how to make low-carb pasta. I'll put a link in the description to that if you want to check that out. When that's all done simmering, put your desired amount of noodles or zoodles onto your plate. Top it with your desired amount of sauce and meatballs. And I usually like to top it with some freshly grated Parmesan cheese, not the canned junk, a fresh grate right off the block there, freshly grated Parmesan, and a little bit of olives. I like to put those on top. Doesn't that look tasty? For the garlic butter, this is so quick, so easy, and tastes so good. In a small bowl, put 4 tablespoons of softened butter, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of seasoned salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of seasoned pepper, and 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. This just really helps bring out the flavor, so if you don't want the lemon juice in it, that's up to you, but the lemon juice really brings out the flavor of the garlic in this, so I wouldn't skip it if I were you. Use a fork and stir it all together until it's fully combined and easy to spread. Then slice off a piece of your favorite low-carb bread, which I've got some good recipes for that I'll put in the description for you. Top it with some of this yummy garlic butter, and poof, you have instant garlic bread. This is great when you're wanting garlic bread, but you're not wanting to take all the time it takes to make garlic bread from scratch. This garlic butter is perfect for that. And there you have it. Quick and easy, gluten-free, keto-friendly spaghetti with keto sauce and meatballs and instant garlic bread. Eat and enjoy.
And that's our recipe of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like and the subscribe button. Leave me a comment if you want to. Let me know if there's any recipes that you'd like to learn how to make, and I'll do what I can to get those out there for you. And as always, keep cooking.